New York Mets fans, we go another week without any significant news, but we did get news that could be affecting the New York Mets moving forward. We're talking about the Alex Bregman contract with the Chicago Cubs. The New York Yankees and Cody Bellinger seem to be at an impasse. And then we got more Kyle Tucker news as well as Valdez news. And I'm going to give you the trade package that it will take to get Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers and bring him to David Stearns and the New York Mets just for that $8 million package that the Mets and David Stearns are looking for. If you guys are into that breakdown of everything that we got going on, share, like, subscribe to the channel. Mets news, a lot of stuff coming up. The hot stove's getting a little bit hotter. More news coming out by the day. We're getting signings here, signings there. We're getting one every week. Now we got to probably wait till next week for the next one, but we'll be all over it on the channel, on the page, trying to figure out who's going to be going next. Sometimes you have to look around to see if there's another move because this one just came out of nowhere for the Chicago Cubs last night, right? Let's get into the Alex Bregman contract that got broke during the Chicago Bears game. So good night for Chicago as they come back against the Packers, and Jeff Passons drops the bomb that third baseman Alex Bregman's heading to the Chicago Cubs. 5 years, $175 million, no opt-outs, full trade, no trade clause, three-time All-Star Alex Bregman. How does that affect the Mets? Did anybody think Bregman would get the 5-year long-term deal for $35 per year? I did not. This is more on the lines of what I think Cody Bellinger, who we're going to get into in a couple seconds, what he's looking for from the Yankees, from the Mets, from any other team that you're interested in him. Don't think Bellinger's going to be worth this much, but this also has $70 million of this contract deferred. So as of now, it's like 5 years, 105, and then after the 5 years, they're going to defer the rest of that $70 million and pay it off at that point. How does that affect the New York Mets? How does that affect the landscape of what the Mets are going to do? We don't know, because I don't think that contract does much for the Mets, because Bregman's just a better player than Bellinger. Bregman's a better player and one of the better players left on the market. I think you're getting more out of Alex Bregman. You're getting a better playoff performer. You're getting a more consistent player than you would be with Cody Bellinger, as a guy who's been cut from two teams, DFA'd from two teams because they just kind of gave up on him. The Dodgers, the Cubs. I mean, this was a guy in Bellinger who, yes, would I be excited the Mets to bring in, but I would be a little hesitant on how much of the money I'm going to be paying him. So we got a report from the Bregman deal. I don't think the Bregman contract affects the Mets too much. So I'm just not of the ilk that I think that affects the Tucker contract, because I think Tucker's going to be paid what he was going to be paid. What that means for Cody Bellinger, I don't know. But one thing we do know about Cody Bellinger that just came out yesterday from Buster Olney, it's a little bit to me, it's a little suspicious that this thing just comes out yesterday. And you know what happens when these type of reports come out. If you remember 2 years ago with Pete Alonso and the Mets, the report comes out. I think it was Talking Yanks that put the report out too, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they're consistent with that. It was put out that the New York Mets expect Pete Alonso to sign somewhere else. 2 weeks later, Pete Alonso signs with the New York Mets. This is a negotiating tactic that's really cheap to do to a player, and it's also cheap to do to a team. It's kind of lazy, but it kind of gets the deals moving in the right direction. Even though Buster Olney comes out and says the Yankees' negotiations with Cody Bellinger are at an impasse, and the team now believes he will sign elsewhere. Olney reports the Yankees are now seeking additions elsewhere, and those additions include Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, who they've been in contact with, according to some of the reports out there. I don't believe this for 1 second. I think Cody Bellinger is as good as a Yankee, even more after this report just came out. If the Mets want to go that route, he's looking for 7 years at $37 million a season. That would put him as what, the fourth or fifth highest paid player in baseball? Absolutely not. I'm not doing this deal with Cody Bellinger. If he wants a 5-year deal, even if it had to go 6 at 28 to 30 per, if it had to, that's not a contract I would give out, but I would not be mad if the Mets gave it out to Bellinger, because he does improve you in multiple facets of the baseball game. So this is the latest report when it comes to Bellinger and the Yankees. I don't see this being true at all. And the fact that Buster only got the report from ESPN means even less to me and less credibility, because when these reports come out, like I said before, this pretty much means they're at that last stage of go see what else someone's going to give you, and if not, we will move on. And the Yankees are handling this Cody Bellinger situation absolutely perfectly. They're giving him the best offer. The Yankees clearly have the best offer for Bellinger. So why bid against yourself? It's the Pete Alonso situation 2 years ago all over again. Don't bid against yourself. Let the chips fall, and he'll be back with the Yankees. And then coming down to that's where I don't think, and the Mets' interest in all this, that's the Met interest in all this. I think that there's a clear David Stearns, Cody Bellinger interest in getting him to Queens. What the contract would look like is nowhere near what they're asking for. But the Yankees' reported offer is 5 years, 160, 5 years, 165, and if you're the Mets, I mean, I'm not offering that for Cody Bellinger. I think 5 years, 140 would probably be where my contract would be. I'm not giving this guy $50 million a year or $36 million. It's just not happening. You know, if the Mets do bring him in, they bring him in. I'll be happy. It's a major upgrade in center field for us. It's a major upgrade in one of the left field. I think he's a better player than Brandon Nimmo. I think you get more consistency out of Bellinger, and I think he would be a tremendous upgrade for the Mets. Whether they bring him in or not, it's a completely different story. And regarding the most likely thing that I think the Mets could pull off, and I think that they will pull off, is trading for Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers. Former player for David Stearns. If the Brewers, so this came out from Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon yesterday. If the Milwaukee Brewers are going to trade all-star right-hander Freddie Peralta, which they truly do, they ideally will want to return for a young, major league-ready replacement. Who does that sound like? Sounds like Jonah Tong, or it sounds like Brandon Sproat. Of the clubs in the mix with Peralta, the New York Mets might be in the best position to part with one of their young prized arms, and they could do that without offering Nolan McLean. McLean would be untouchable in this kind of a deal. You're not sending him over for any pitcher in baseball, probably except for a guy like Paul Skeens. Even a Tyreek Skubal, you're not sending over McLean because you have plenty of arms that the Mets have done. This is what David Stearns has done best, right? He's built this farm system up so well that the Mets can afford to give away a Brandon Sproat. David Stearns has built up this farm system with young pitching, and it's only getting better as you just look at the minor league statistics and the minor league numbers. The Met pitching in the minors is getting so much better over the last 2 seasons. You could afford to give away a Brandon Sproat for a guy like Freddie Peralta, who's only making $8 million this year. He would be the ideal fit to slide right into your rotation, right next to McLean, right next to Holmes, right next to Senga, Peterson, and all those other guys. You'd have a nice rotation heading into the season if you added Freddie Peralta to this team. Former player for David Stearns when he was the GM over there in Milwaukee. And Freddie Peralta's been pretty good over the last 3-4 seasons, so you can't lose when you're bringing a guy like that in. What the difficulty is here for the Mets is who do you part with? I'm assuming they're going to ask for Jonah Tong. He seems like he's a little more highly coveted around baseball over a Brandon Sproat. I would be more inclined to give away a Brandon Sproat. I'm not the biggest Tong guy, but if I had to try and hang on to one where I think the more upside is, I think Tong does have the more upside. Whether he puts it together in the major leagues is a totally different story. But Brandon Sproat going over to the Milwaukee Brewers, plus another, top 15 prospect, and then maybe another top 30 prospect gets that kind of deal done. If you want to include Tyler McGill or Trevor McGill from the Milwaukee Brewers as well, bring him over. Now we're talking a bigger package, but as of right now, it just seems like Freddie Peralta is the main target for a team like the New York Mets. And the New York Mets are the best fit, right? They have the young pitching. They could afford to get rid of the young pitching. Stearns has built up the young pitching in the minor leagues. This is why he's done what he's done in the minors with the drafts, getting all these prospects together for these types of deals where the Mets have the money, they have the prospects to get whatever they want. And this is a deal that I do truly think gets done. Freddie Peralta, by season start, I think is a New York Met. I think that's kind of what's been going around the industry for a couple of months, and I think that sort of a deal will happen in the coming weeks. So as we stand with Bellinger, we stand with Peralta, with Bregman, and what that meant for the Mets. They're still in on Tucker, which I don't think Bregman's contract affected the Mets' availability to get Tucker. I think that the Mets are going to give Tucker a pretty fair deal according to the market. That's why it's taking this long. If I had to predict what was going on, I would assume it's Toronto giving him the longest amount of money with the longest amount of years with the lower AAV, I think the Mets are offering him the highest AAV, but a shorter-term deal. And I think the Dodgers are offering him a short-term deal with a lower AAV than the Mets, but the Dodgers are offering championships and playing for a consistent, sustained winning team. That's where I think Kyle Tucker and what's been taking so long in these negotiations. That's why I think the decision's not as easy as people might think. That's why this thing's getting dragged along. But Bellinger, I don't think he winds up with anybody but the Yankees. I think this report's truly false. I think it's that last stitch from the Yankees to say, all right, take it or leave it. And he will take it eventually. All right, that's it. I mean, Peralta could be a Met. Bellinger could be a Met. Tucker could be a Met. We'll see what goes on. But what we do know is the offseason is moving real slow. Players are in no rush to sign these contracts. So whatever happens, we'll be on top of it. If you guys got to it, thank you so much. Share, like, subscribe. Catch you guys on the next Met video.